Welcome back to Good Morning Namibia, and this is your third hour. Tourism remains one of Africa's most important economic drivers, but sustaining growth requires more than promoting destinations. An emerging global conversation is exploring how countries can position themselves not only as tourism destinations, but also as education hubs that attract international students and support skills development linked to sectors such as tourism. Now, today we are joined by Mr. Folabi Obembe, founder and CEO of Worldview International Group, a UK-based organization connecting students across Africa with global education and skills development opportunities. He joins us to share his perspective on the relationship between education and tourism development across the continent. Good morning and welcome to the show, Mr. Obembe.
Good morning to you too, and thanks for having me here today.
Yes. Is this your first time on Good Morning Namibia?
This is actually my first time in Namibia.
In Namibia?
Yes, I've never been here before.
Oh, welcome to Namibia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Obembe, from your perspective, how are education and tourism connected within Africa's development landscape?
Well, I would say that when students go to any country, they can be seen as a tourist first. And it's what we call a long-term tourism.
Yes.
Because they come in, they want to explore the country. And their parent, family also come into the country to explore the country. So education tourism itself is something very big. And for every tourist country, is also something that they use as a way to get people to come in, So there is a very, very, very big correlation between the two. And international education, to be more precise, is a way of bringing people in and creating a long-term tourism especially in the continent of Africa.
And in your view, what can African countries do to enhance or rather better the position themselves as both learning and tourism destinations?
Well, as they're marketing themselves as a tourist country, I know of many African countries, they are moving to that direction now, which obviously Namibia is one of those. Ghana, talk about Rwanda, talk about Kenya. Tourism, is, of course, a very big industry. The likes of Dubai, they've done it very well. But in terms of Africa positioning themselves, we have to expose ourselves to the rest of the world. People have to see us. They have to know what we have. Until I go here, I don't know what Namibia looks like. Of course, I've read a lot about the country. Well, being here, I see that it's a safe country. And would I come back? I say, oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
But I came here on a business trip. Same way, if students come here for education, they will spread the news. And they would tell their parents, they would tell their friends about the country, and obviously encourage people to come in. So I've been advocating for African countries to start positioning themselves as a study destination, because students travel to study in different parts of this world, and is a type of tourism that you don't need much investment. Of course, you already have universities here in Namibia, and even if this is not enough, there's a lot of universities around the world that want to have a campus in Namibia. If you consider Dubai, for example, Dubai has started with having a knowledge village, Dubai, where they encourage foreign universities to come and have their campus. And as a result of that, it helps Dubai to attract a lot of, imagine you have 20,000 students from different parts of the world in your country. It means you have 20,000 nationalities and you have parents of 20,000 students becoming a potential tourist person, So in terms of Africa positioning themselves, they also have to look into that direction of education as a way of, developing their tourism industry.
I think Namibia is also well on the way with partnerships such as Limco Queen University that also has a campus here in Namibia. Now, tourism depends heavily on skilled human resources. What skills, or rather competencies, should African higher education institutions consider strengthening to support this sector?
Well, I mean, I think tourism requires so many skills. You know, you talk about tourist guards, you know, people come here from different countries to come and explore the country. They probably need a translator. They need people that will probably speak their language in the hotel.
Yes.
And, you know, with education can help attract students from different parts of the world, which can end up being part of those skills that is needed in the country to help develop the tourism industry. So in terms of skills, of course, there are programs for tourism which is widely, you know, acceptable all over the world, which I always encourage people, because there's one thing that is AI is not going to take away is hospitality. You know, AI can deliver some of the hospitality, but it will
Not all
never,
of it.
or that kind of personal relation. So I think, you know, the most countries in Africa, they've started doing that, but I think they need to open up by implementing policies that will attract more universities or more campuses to be established on the soil of Africa. You know, so that's my opinion about, you know, in terms of education seen as a driver for tourism, because you have to promote yourself. If you travel, you see Dubai doing a lot of advertisements. It's very expensive to advertise
Yes.
all over the world, but you can also find a way of advertising by encouraging students to come here, and students can then be your way of attracting people to come to your country for tourism. So, yeah, I mean, that's my opinion about that.
And are there areas that you believe tourism or hospitality curricula in Africa could expand or also modernize to better reflect global industry trends?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot. I mean, tourism itself is rapidly changing. You know, people go to a certain country, they want to visit another country, and people have expectations when they get to a country. So, in terms of tourism, most of the things that we taught in class are more of, you know, how to handle things when you actually get in contact with people. Education needs to address things like marketing for tourism. You know, students do marketing in classes, but is there a program actually designed to train people to actually market the tourism
Yes, that's
industry?
specialized for tourism
There should be a
sector.
specialized one, because being able to market a product is completely different scenario when you're marketing for people to come and experience something, you know. So I think programs like that needs to be developed, because a lot of hotels needs to market themselves. A lot of tourist attractions needs to present themselves to the rest of the world to make it attractive for people to want to come. So a special programs needs to be developed in terms of when we're looking at tourism itself. And when it comes to, you know, food, catering and all those stuff, and that also being a chef in hotel, you have to be able to cater for everybody. You know, I've stayed in hotel here. I've seen that, you know, different foods are being cooked, but
Yes.
you know, the way it's presented, I have to know the content in the food. I have to, you know, for me to be able to have. So it requires a lot of education. Can play a lot of roles in that by creating specialized programs for such to cater for those kind of areas of what's it called in tourism actually.
And what about practical training? How important is that in the industry to give exposure within tourism education programs?
Well, I mean, when we talk about practical training, I think we're moving to aspect of TVET, you know, also, because it's one thing I've also been talking about. Practical training is, you know, very, very important. It's required. I've been to a few hotels, especially I've traveled around the world. I've been to almost 36. This is my 37th country in
Sure.
Africa. And one of the things I've seen that's different from everywhere else I've been in the West is provision of, you know, electrical outlets in the hotel, making assumption that everyone is not going to be from southern part of, or maybe
Yeah.
going to be from a certain area of the country. So all those things also play a role in hospitality. So if you have been trained to be an electrician, and you're wiring or you're doing a work in a hotel, you should know that this provision needs to be provided. So practical training is very important. I mean, everything in most things in tourism industry is actually practical because it's more of interacting with people.
Interaction.
Yeah, so I think is very important.
And what role can student mobility and academic exchange play in encouraging travel and also cultural understanding across Africa?
Well, I would say it's the cheapest way to market tourism because if you have a student in a country, he's going to talk about tell his friends, which they have a bunch of network of friends.
Oh.
They're on social media. They show the country. You know, and when you talk about their parents, you can have your child studying a place in a country for 4 years, and you say you never visit. You know, so it's actually an area where I believe that every government needs to actually tap into, especially even in the Western world now. A lot of people want to visit Africa, but they want to have reasons for coming to Africa. And a couple of years ago, we started what we call summer program. It's just an experience for people to come and experience the continent. So through a channel of education. So they have some in-class activities, maybe for a few days, but most of the things then becomes a cultural attraction. Let them see the continent. Because if it's hard to tell people what it looks like without actually coming to visit. If I go now, I'm going to tell people about what I experienced in Namibia. So it's me talking from an experience, right? And I believe that this is something that every government needs to look into. Selling their country as a study destination, attracting universities to come and have a campus. There's so many universities that are looking for an establishment in the continent. And, you know, a policy change, incentive, small incentive can bring a whole lot. In Dubai, there was what we call a Dubai Knowledge Village, which is a free zone for education. And there's a lot of campuses there now having establishments in that country. So that's, I think, is very important, actually.
And in your experience, how can partnerships between these education institutions and the tourism industry improve the industry?
Well, when education always is to solve an immediate need, and if of course there's a tourism development in a country, they will obviously create programs that would address those needs of, you know, in terms of skills and all that. I think with partnership with the university, the package of different packages can actually be developed. I've just spoke about, you know, a summer program which we develop.
Okay.
It's 10 days summer program. But it can be seen as education tourism because they're coming to visit. And
Exactly.
they're going to stay in hotel, they're going to stay heat in the country, they'll bring, you know, I'll call it foreign investments into the country. So I think a partnership, universities actually looking themselves as also a part of a stakeholder in tourism industry is very important because they can help bring people into the country also. And people, of course, experience the country. So they need to come together and see how they can develop different programs and activities.
And what examples or practices, best practices from other regions across the world could African countries also learn from when linking education and tourism?
Well, I've seen a very important, I mean, a very, very clear one, which is the Dubai experience, you know, and it always amazed me the way the country is and in terms of how they position themselves in terms of holiday destination. But one thing that Dubai has actually invested in is encouraging education. They've opened up Dubai to become a study destination as well, which has helped them a lot in terms of bringing people in. So I think we don't have to go too far in terms of copy and pasting the concept in Dubai into anywhere that want to promote themselves as a as a tourism country. It is very important that education in this part of the world needs to attract people from different parts of the world. Me coming here, you want to have a restaurant that takes care of my country.
Yes.
I want to have food from, you know, so if you have people coming from different parts of the world, they must see something on ground that will encourage them to want to come back. And which I believe that if you start having students from, let's say, from China in the country, then a restaurant for Chinese or for, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist right
Yes.
now, but a restaurant for Chinese will start popping up because there'll be now a need for them to cater for those students.
For those
But while they're
students.
catering for those students also, they're also catering for the tourists, you know, that will come to the country from those part of the world. So it has to be a balance, you know, in terms of how we go about this.
And how can education systems contribute to promoting sustainable tourism and also cultural preservation?
Well, again, student is a long-term tourist person. You study in a country for 4 years, you're likely to come back there, you know, as often as possible. You have a direct link or connection to that particular country.
And you built so many networks.
Exactly, you've built the networks, and of course, you bring people who happen to be members of family, friends, and you make them also a long-term tourist. Was it called client? So I think, you know, it's from my perspective in terms of talking from education point of view, because I've seen what education is capable of doing. In one university, you have maybe 20,000 students from different parts of the world. That's huge in terms of numbers. If every one of those students comes with one person in a year, it's obviously a big numbers we're talking about. So in terms of Africa positioning themselves as a tourist attraction, which is, we have a lot to show the world. I mean, I'm very amazed with what I've seen. And I was like, how come I didn't know about this for a very long time? You know, I've been to South Africa many times, you know. So I think what we also need to look at is education, which can be the cheapest way to market our countries, I mean, Africa as a study destination. That's very important.
And on a concluding note, what key considerations, policy considerations, can policy makers actually keep in mind when strengthening the connection between education and tourism in Africa?
Well, I think when we talk about policy, changes everything in the world. If you look at the likes of Canada, UK, US, when they want to attract people to their country, all they do is make a policy that will encourage people to come. A few years ago, UK did a policy encouraging people to come with their family. If you want to come study, you can come with your husband. A lot of people travel with that kind of, what's it called, that policy. So in terms of governments actually looking at how to connect education with tourism, it's opening up, giving foreign university more incentive to come and have a campus here. And once they started having campuses in different countries, I mean in Africa, it means that mobility of students will start coming in. And when students start coming in, then the countries are opening up in terms of business, in terms of, you know, talk about so many things, accommodation, they want to stay. More hotels will come in because there will be a demand for it, you know.
Yes.
So it's something that I believe that, I mean, for us, we work with governments in different countries to market themselves as a study destination. And I've been an advocate of studying Africa because I've traveled within the African continent, and every time I get amazed about what I've seen. And I know that Africa has everything required to compete with the rest of the world. And I think the policy is just one thing that the government can actually do, and to encourage people to come in.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Obembe.
Thank
and I
you.
hope that Namibia further amazes you
Thank you. Thank you
during
very
your
much.
stay here, and that all your endeavors are successful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on your show this morning. I appreciate it.